the background. Cool. All right, we're all set. But yeah, thanks for joining, Mark, and welcome to the cadCAD community call, everyone. Mark, I realize you've presented like a number of times now on this topic, the
Oh well, only two
Academy.
times.
But
Yeah.
maybe this will be slightly different flavor, maybe more focused on the model, less about the concepts or something. I don't know. We'll change it up. Actually going to shut my video off. I see it's lagging a good amount.
So what would you like to see first?
Yeah,
The thing I
well,
presented yesterday, or the other one?
yeah, well, first we can just do maybe a quick hello from everyone. I don't know if you've met Trang or I guess you know Walter from the research program, but we can just do a quick like round of hellos.
Yeah.
Kick the call off. So I can start. I think you all are familiar with me, but yeah, my name's Peter, and have been doing a lot of work in the token engineering space for about a year now, with Token Engineering Academy, cadCAD, Block.Science, the like. Recently getting more into the cadCAD world. Have been running these community calls for the last few months, and I think the community calls have been pretty casual, but it's been a cool way to just connect with people who are actually building models with cadCAD and just kind of talk in like a slightly different structure, different format, do some tours of the models and get more into the code than I think a lot of other conversations end up going. So yeah, I'm excited to dive into the reward systems model that you've been working on. And I'll kick it over to you, Trang, if you want to say hi.
Sure, yeah. Happy to hi, Mark. Hi, Waka. Mark, I think I saw one of your video when you was working with Sean with Token Spice and
Yeah.
cadCAD. Oh, okay.
Actually, I
But,
also made a clone of Token Spice with cadCAD at the time. That's true. Yeah. I think I
yeah, I
mentioned it
saw
there. Yeah.
Cool.
I saw the video. Yeah. Yeah, I mainly working with Token Spice and simulating the ocean ecosystem in both version 3 and version 4, which is coming up very soon. Recently, I haven't really using cadCAD, but more on Token Spy and smart contract development. So, but still in touch with token engineering community, and yeah, glad to be here. And then, yeah, hearing your new research, Mark.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Awesome. Walter, are you there? I know it's late for you.
I am here because I just wanted to see if anybody is still able to talk at this hour. And I'm actually, believe it or not, catching up on presentations from the research initiative. I'm like on
Cool.
number
That's
17 right now.
Wow.
So yeah, just reminiscing, looking forward to more good stuff.
Very cool. That's some serious dedication. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, by this hour of the day, I think you mean bright and early in the morning. We're fresh over here in Europe, ready to
Yeah.
get started.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mark, I'll hand it off to you then. If you want to do a quick intro and then um, about what like to cover. I think either of the models, maybe we can get into both of them. I know you worked on two for the reward systems program, and I mean I've heard the pitch myself a few times about like the content of them, but I'm kind of curious to look a little bit deeper into the models, like how they're set up,
Sure.
and then if you have any like interesting challenges or learnings from how you, yeah, approached the modeling process, that would be great too. But yeah,
All right. Yeah. Okay. Well, so yeah, I'm Mark. I guess I'm a seasoned management consulting and with a technical background as well. I studied mechanical engineering a long time ago. So I always had a feeling for technical stuff, but also from a managerial perspective. So this is why I liked studying these DAO governance systems. because I think it's all about governance. Things happen because of governance. And I think this let's say this token environment, this crypto space is really challenging for that matter, because you can't see each other. You work distantly. You should trust each other by means of doing things. And how can you check that people are actually doing things, or how can you trust each other? Basically, it's also about who decides who decides. I think that's a mantra that keeps that keeps me awake, I would say. I think that's a really interesting thing to research on. So this is why I participated in the DAO reward system program. And yeah, without further ado, let's dive into the model. Okay, first I will show you the model we worked on with Team 2. Both models are focused on the Ocean DAO system. Okay, let's look at this one. Okay. You can see this, right?
Yes.
Is it big enough? Yeah?
Yeah, looks good for me.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So this is the first model. We would like to say, okay, we are saying then maybe we can increase DAO health by building more trust in the system. So how do you deliver trust? How can you augment trust, increase it? And trust is getting increased by doing actions with stakeholders in the DAO ecosystem. So one stakeholder is doing an action which influences stuff or outcome for other stakeholders. So basically, we were thinking, yeah, the Ocean DAO grant system is built around, let's say, grants and projects and proposals. And projects, of course, are being run by teams. Teams are individual stakeholder who might also be other stakeholders in the system, like stakers or voters. So we looked at it from the perspective is, okay, who is delivering value to the ecosystem from a grants perspective? And that basically are the projects doing that. Projects are proposing for grants. They receive grants. They are delivering value. They are delivering maybe on milestones. And let's see what that brings the ecosystem. So we thought, okay, how about using some sort of a reputation NFT? When you are going to do projects, here's a Loopy of this system we thought about. That you start with grants, and grants, of course, fund projects consisting of teams, and teams are doing actions. And these actions will deliver value in some way. So we looked at it from a source cred perspective. Like source cred, okay, if you do an action, you get some score. And we call it weight. You get some weight if you do an action, but this weight is not constant being, accumulated. There's also a decay function. So the actions you are doing now will decay in value over 10 days, for instance. And we have a decay functions. Nevertheless, if you do enough actions, you earn some sort of, you accumulate weight. And when this weight accumulation, this score, if you wish, is passing a certain threshold, then you earn an NFT. And of course, NFTs are signals for other stakeholders in the system, mainly voters, to see, okay, this project or this team member is really delivering value. Otherwise, he wouldn't receive or earn an NFT. So this might be a signal to vote for these kinds of projects or team members participating in these projects. So this will increase the yes votes, and more yes votes, more means more value projects, and which is a signal to the treasury, hey, we are getting more valuable projects in this DAO. Of course, it also works the other way around. If teams don't deliver to their promise, you have delays, they're not meeting their milestones, or otherwise don't do anything at all. We get a lot of delays, and we have a curation function of the end of each round, which is saying, okay, it's curating these projects, is auditing actually, okay, does these teams these teams deliver to their promise? No. We have a lot of delays. We place verdicts, which are signaling that this project is turning unsound, which of course leads to no votes and bad projects, which are of course diminishing the grants cap. Basically, this was our simulation model, and if you dive into this this model, you have the policies and mechanism, of course. The project policy is basically every round instantiating projects according to a normal Ocean DAO round statistics. We took the statistics from the last 3 Ocean rounds, 11, 12, and 13, I recall. And we do a sort of normal distribution about the project weights. So if a project in a certain round got 10% of all total votes, it has an initial weight of 0.1, so 10% of all weights. So basically, this is the weights distribution, the initial weights distribution of the projects. Well, here we have also an accounting policy. I already mentioned the curator, which could be not a person or a stakeholder, but could be automated as well. A couple of years ago, we had the notion of TCRs, token curated registries, which are challenging projects or stuff if they are really doing as they say they are doing. So this curator function could be automated, and we simulated this as being placed. Okay, this is some auditor function, which is walking over all these projects and saying, okay, this project is delayed, and this project didn't deliver at all. And we have various, of course, levels of verdicts, which is from just delayed to this project is clearly a rug pull. I think you can imagine what that means. Then the values policy, basically what we say is if you see that projects are delivering to their promise, they earn NFTs or team members earn NFTs. And if that NFT earn ratio is higher than average, so you accumulate all the NFTs of all projects and you get some sort of an average, and you see, okay, how many projects are above this average and how many are under that. And so this is just an arbitrary cost function which influences the flow to the yes vote stock. So yes votes are linear to the square of this ratio, and no votes as well. So basically what you see here, this is the initial project distribution. And what I did was also did the same distribution over the voters. So voters, we presume that voters will also have a similar distribution about who is voting for what kind of project, which is of course in reality very differently, but it was just too difficult to simulate for this moment. Now it's get interesting for the model. I use cadCAD. Why do I use cadCAD? Because I think there are more this type of cadCAD clone, or I would say fork, is performing better on a highly object-oriented stuff. Because and then we dive deeper into the model. I modeled the projects as objects, which are quite heavy on memory. So basically, this is a project class, and project, of course, consists of milestones. Milestones are consisting of tasks, and tasks do have also a weight, and they have also team members attached to these. So I modeled both projects, milestones, tasks, and team members in this file, project.py. We also have this curator function. I already mentioned that, and basically what it does is only audits the projects. So not much happening there. And voters, this is the interesting part, are basically in the Ocean DAO round now. We just have voters voting for projects, and they don't risk anything by voting on these projects, either yes or no votes. So what we introduced was some sort of I think Rodolfo mentioned it's like a future key, that there is in fact a risk involved in voting. So if you vote for good projects, you win tokens. And if you vote in the end for bad projects, so projects that turning unsound during the round, you lose tokens. So there's a bit of a risk involved in voting with your tokens. And this is interesting because then you have basically an initial curation up front before projects even start.
And
Okay.
sorry, quick
Yeah,
question
questions?
about that. So, that the voting rule that you just talked about, that's not actually live in Ocean right now. So that's kind of a new proposal, a new policy that
Yeah,
you guys are
yeah,
modeled. Okay,
exactly. Yeah.
interesting, cool.
Well, even also the curator function was also quite a
Yeah.
new proposal, because what I understood from Rodolfo was that it's being done by hand now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite labor intensive.
Yeah.
I can imagine some bunch of mechanical Turks
Yeah.
running around the ocean DAO. And I think usually it's Rodolfo himself and Trent, I can imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And
Yeah,
on the curator point, so I noticed the logic was mostly around delays. So I think that means time steps
yeah,
between like when the project was proposed and when it started to make progress.
exactly.
Would there
Yeah.
be any other in like is that a simplified version of like curator rules, or would there be any other in reality that or in practice that you could see we might want to add, like if the curator is an agent, like what other rules they might curate based on
Yeah,
that you would want to
sure.
improve the model with?
Sure. Let's see if I have that here. I have somewhere implemented this. I think it's somewhere here. Oh yeah, it's in the source code directory. I used a lot of functions in the contributor, mostly sort of voting stuff. Or let's see where I have this. Yeah, so this is an important thing. No, let me first explain this to you. Basically, a project is looking like this: milestones, tasks, and tasks have certain weights, and certain team members may be attached to them. I didn't work that out yet, but this is also a means that a curator can work on. So if, of course, project leads have certain standing, so they earned NFTs in former projects, the curator might implement that in factoring out his verdicts. I didn't, we didn't implement that yet. But here's the weight function, and weight is basically let's say an accumulation of actions in time. And this is where the decay function also kicks in. If you do some action, like maybe posting on Discord or doing a pull request on your GitHub repo, you can earn some weight. But this weight is, of course, decaying in time. And this is how I modeled it
Mm-hmm.
with the current time step in the simulation minus the genesis time steps when the action actually for the first time happened.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a reverse sigmoid function. So an action which you did 10 days ago is only worth half now of the weight of the initial weight.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, a curator function can also look at all the weights that have been accumulated by both team members individually and projects on a team level to see, okay, when did this weight happen actually? When did this accumulation of weight happen? I also implemented a weight rate stock variable, but I didn't work on it anymore because I didn't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
So these are handles a curator function might be interested in, digging out. Does that answer your question, Peter?
Yeah, so you could add some logic to the curator function that looks at the weights of
Yeah.
the projects or team members and then has this feedback loop to the curation decision.
Yeah. And
Okay,
basically,
really cool.
we're already doing that because
Mm-hmm.
at each point in time, that's in the contributor.py file, we calculate the team weight at a certain moment in time. So you see here the parameter current time step will say, okay, the whole team weight, or basically the weight of the project itself, is being calculated by the individual weights of the team members, and we'll see, okay, the project lead has a double value in that, and everybody with lead in his name has a 1.5 factor on it, with respect to the other team members, just regular coders or software engineers. You can, of course, tune into that to see, okay, how does this team weight accumulate over time? And this is also a handle a curator can exploit, actually.
Really cool.
So basically, this is an example of, okay, what is the project weight at a certain time step? So just before the end of the round, you can see that Project Gilbert accumulated a weight of 17 in total. And these are just numbers, like parameters you can, of course, influence or maintain within your DAO ecosystem. So this is quite generic. Then, of course, the weight distribution about the NFTs. When do you earn certain NFTs? So basically, what you see here is if at this point in time you have a weight of 17, you will be earning a Manta Ocean NFT level. Sorry, I didn't do that quite well. I think Ocean, yeah, 20. Yeah, I think I miscalculated, or these levels. I think I have altered these levels. Yeah, these levels are. I think I altered them here. Sorry. So this is not in sync with the actual code yet. Okay. So basically this, but also on individual level. So an individual team member, Deborah, earned already a fisherman level. So that might signal some sort of a voter if they see, okay, hey, Deborah is part of this team, and she has already earned a fisherman level. That might be a signal of trust in Deborah, so I will vote for her. So these are kinds of stuff you can exploit NFTs with. And why did we use the NFT thing? Is that we need to have some sort of a mechanic to let's say validate the actual trust level of what somebody did, and that's, I think, stronger than just receiving tokens or something like that. I think it's also being implemented in the tech with the tech tokens. Not sure how they call, or common stack tokens, CSTK.
The CSTK, yeah.
Yeah,
Reputation thing.
I think I have a bunch of them, and I have also a certain level there in the token engineering commons. So basically, NFTs are a great way to validate your standing in the ecosystem. Top performers, you see here, Project Kimri already maybe you reached gold level. So it's really performing well over 10 rounds, I would say. So basically the simulation is to complete over 10 rounds. So this is the gold level Atlantis. This is a nice way to see how projects are delivering value and also decaying. So this project here is a recurring project. So round by round, it's there, and you see it's accumulating, but it's also decaying. So not delivering on time, or on. I implemented that as a stochastic function. So some of the time you deliver on task, the other time you don't deliver. So you incur delays, and that will bring your value down. So this is quite a dynamic plot that you can see. Okay, what is the overall view of how all the projects in a round have been performing? Yep. Here's the counting. So what I said is voting is not without risk. If you vote for good projects, you earn money or earn tokens. If you vote for bad projects, you lose tokens. So who is winning and who is losing tokens? Well, both, basically, because I implemented it, of course, as a normal distribution of all voters voting for all kinds of projects. So basically, they win and they lose as well. So we could argue to, okay, implement this voter function or the voter distribution in a more sophisticated manner. And you see here that the average losing is more than the average winning. So basically what's happening on DAO level, we say, okay, this DAO is dying because we get more no votes than yes votes. And then that really affects how the ecosystem is flourishing. Well, actually, it's diminishing now because DAO members are fading away because of the high no votes, so the high level of bad projects.
Yeah.
And again, this is a stochastic function, so you can tune that in
Yeah.
order to get these levels otherwise. So this is the first model. Any questions?
Yeah. So, do you have a theory as to why the no votes are more common than the yes votes? Is it because of the decay?
It's
Um,
it's usually because of the decay. I really have a strong decay function implemented.
okay.
So if you tune that parameter, you might see, because I did some simulations which had a more normal oscillating value. But yeah, I really didn't have the time to look at these parameters. I did a parameter sweep. Well, as I said, I use cadCAD because of the heavy model, and I even didn't want to implement Monte Carlo runs or more parameter sweeps because the model is really choking, or the simulation is really choking. This simple model, the sim setup, I did 305 days time steps, only one Monte Carlo runs. Okay, I had a parameter sweep with 3 parameters, performer ratio. That took me already 2 minutes, and I have a really turbo MacBook at my hands here, so I didn't want to choke it any further. So yeah, there are lots of improvements to be made here to get other signals or other outcomes.
And so what would be like one of the, if computing power wasn't a limitation, what would be one of the next parameter sweeps you think would provide more insight into like what parameters
Yeah,
to set?
I think more parameters on the stochastic side. So
Hmm.
in the other model, I did implement that because you can see, okay, what is the chance that a project will deliver to their tasks? And I implemented that. I think let's see where I did that. Mm,
Might be the like reputation. So like the,
no, it's not there. Check penalty. Yeah, here. That's here. So um, I check a task at a certain time step to see if it's done or not. And if it's overshooting, then I say, okay, it's not delivering, and the weight is here is already subtracted. So if you
hmm.
already incur a punishment if you don't deliver on your task. So I might parameterize these values because these are, I think in token spice they are called magic numbers.
Yeah.
We have to get rid of these magic numbers and parameterize them.
Yeah. So what do you think is a good approach in these cases in the modeling process where you're like, okay, you can't model perfectly the success or failure of a project or of certain tasks, being completed or not completed.
Yeah,
Um, you can obviously make it randomized, or you could do a normal distribution or something. uh, like I don't know. How do you think about approaching that? Obviously, you don't want to sink a ton of time into like trying to get that part right because maybe if you change another part of the model,
yeah,
then you get different
yeah,
results anyways.
yeah,
Um, yeah, how do you think about
yeah.
approaching that?
Yeah, I was thinking about that because actually what you need to do is look at how projects are performing in general in the Ocean DAO
Hmm.
system. Then you get some sort of real feedback numbers. And of course, then you can have a more realistic distribution of tasks being performed or not. So then you can more, let's say narrowing down the bandwidth of
Yeah.
parameters of the stochastic function.
So yeah, so you'd
Uh,
almost want like real data.
Yeah, real data.
Yeah.
Always validate your assumptions, because this
Yeah.
is just, firing away in the blind.
Okay. And
But then again, of course, you can imagine that certain projects, so basically this is just, using common sense figures. Okay, some
mhm.
some projects are bad, some are good.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
But
And so like on that point, obviously having real data would be great, and maybe eventually if these mechanisms are implemented and this model became a digital twin, then you'd like be able to feed in historical information about task completion and get this part more accurate.
yeah,
Um, but so
as a
what?
matter of fact, you could even use a machine learning model to feed into the parameters,
Mm, yeah, okay,
because we have lots of data available. But then you have to, you need to put the work in to get that machine learning model working for you.
right. Okay. And so then one more question. Uh, so if we were to like maybe um, black box this task completion component off and say like we don't have the data, or we're just not sure, so we're going to randomize it and that's good enough. What would be like, would you then look towards another parameter? Like would there be, what am I trying to ask? I guess like which parameters do you think are more under control, like under our control, that we could look at modifying
Yeah,
to learn something from the model, even though we might not be able to model this task completion part. Um,
I think you need to look at, and that's more on a DAO level, to
mhm.
say, or the parameter working group, as you to be in sync with the Ocean DAO working groups. I think the parameter working group can work on, okay, how can we tune the parameters of the weighting function, maybe.
Okay.
So the weights, and how do we value certain actions in projects. So if you can't measure tasks, you of course can measure actions or value.
Hmm.
That's the source cred manner, or the coordinate manner. Of course, you can implement these kinds of mechanisms as well, and
Right.
parameterize them.
Okay. Cool. Um, what would you do
So at
next?
time for the other model, what do
Uh,
we do?
yeah,
What
yeah,
did
we
what
could
model?
we could
Yeah.
jump into the other model. But I got, or yeah, sorry, one last question. I am curious. So what would you do next to like improve this model, or I don't know if you have plans or not, but um, what's like one area you
Yeah,
want to spend
maybe
more
I
time on?
go. Yeah, maybe I go down the route that Trang did, like maybe applying for a grant
Yeah.
and improving this model or something like that. I'm not
Hmm.
sure yet, because time is not on my side, and I
Yeah.
really put in already a lot of effort in this
Oh
model.
yeah. I mean, this is, yeah,
So,
it's really cool.
yeah,
I like just seeing a little bit more of the weeds of like the details, the functions, and
yeah, sure. Basically, this is where the bulk of the functions are,
yeah.
and in the contributor. And this is just what I stole from SourceCred.
Hmm.
Uh, so you can of course tinker on this, and this is
Yeah.
actually the ocean round statistics of the last 3 rounds, with a probabilities distribution about these rounds. So yeah, please take it and tinker with it, I would say. This is where the weight is being implemented with the
Hmm.
reverse sigmoid function. I stole the wallet function from Token Spice. So yeah, there's already a lot of reuse from Token Spice repos.
Yeah.
Uh,
Would you say this is an agent-based model?
yeah, I
Are you,
would
yeah.
say. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say not quite, but of course you can model projects as agents, or team. Well, in any fact, stakeholders as agents.
Hmm.
And we can expand on that. Of course, we already only focused on projects and voters on a high DAO level. But
Hmm.
of course, you can that was the other model about. It's more, go into the different aspects of what motivates certain stakeholders in the ecosystem, and what triggers them, and how can you model the flows into these stocks.
Right. Okay, actually, I have one more question before we go into the other model. I'm curious about the process of moving from the Loopy chart or just from like a visualization to the model as you've built it. Like in your head, are you thinking in the Loopy chart, are you thinking, this circle this is going to be a block of code, this is going to be a function, and then you'd really take this visualization and like translate it into code, or would you say that they're pretty different structures?
No, I think they're quite similar. I start out usually with the Loopy. I think stock and flow diagrams are overly complicated. I really like this Loopy thing because you can easily, model entities or things or stocks and model the flows accordingly, and then you can just tinker with it, and then you can see when you have an overview like this, you can see, okay, now this is not correct, or this is not how it should be, or this is not how it works. I think this is basically my main modeling tool for easily set up an overview of the ecosystem. Okay, what is happening? What kind of flows are increasing more than other flows? Like, for instance, the teams doing actions have a bigger weight on the actions on this node than on the delays, for instance.
Yeah.
But they do have some impact. So basically, I really like this tool because also, yeah, the dynamics are arbitrarily, I would say, but it's nice to have some moving arrows, etc. But from this mental model, it's easier to form your model into cadCAD because you already have the entities like a project, a team or team members, actions, the decay functions, the NFT stuff. And it's easy also, I think, to, delegate work. I did that with the team because basically in both teams, team 2 and team 3, I had the sole idea of, okay, I'm making a cadCAD model and you guys have to come up with the stocks and flows. And this really helps, delegating work. Okay, let's say, Andreas, you are going to think about the NFT earning process. How does that work? So it's also quite a nice tool, to delegate work to other, maybe less technical team members.
Yeah, this is more manageable than
Yeah,
stock and flow for sure. Okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, interesting. I personally didn't get so like exposure into that.
It's basically this Loopy is a
Okay,
stock and flow diagram. It's only not, it
there's no
doesn't have the
math.
same, yeah, it's the
Yeah.
same, it doesn't have the math or the really detailed discussion about, okay, and how does this flow function looks like.
Mm-hmm.
You do that, I do that in the cadCAD model. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. So I know we only have a few minutes left. I'd be happy to look at the other model for a little bit, or else if you want to just like keep uh, talking about this one rather than starting a new subject, I'm sure I could come up with some more questions. But I find this really interesting, so um,
Yeah,
up
quick
to you
look
if
of
you think we
the,
could dive into this in enough time.
can you see this one?
Yeah, it's loading. There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So basically, what we did with the first model is more a deep dive into, okay, how do projects work,
Mm-hmm.
and how does that influence a particular stock like voters. And this one is more about the stakeholders themselves and the category of stakeholders. How are they influenced by outcome of projects?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we have already the DAO members. So basically, this is the whole ecosystem, the community. And we subcategorized in voters, active participants, stakers, market makers, really important, and builders. And builders is an interesting category because they are looking at, okay, can we make money, or can we somehow earn rewards by proposing to the grant system? And then we model project categories, new projects, so the newcomers, recurring projects, projects that already have been funded, existing projects. And basically, this is really nice because this is also delivering to the or mimicking the real Ocean DAO tier in the wiki, the funding tiers. And so what you do here is, okay, we plunge in with a stochastic function, some new project, every round, some new projects that can promote to an existing project with a chance of 30%. Again, we have a curation policy, which is basically also a probability function saying some projects are turning unsound at certain points in the round. And the later in the round, the higher the chances that the project turns unsound because you have more information, of course, on it. And this is basically, these are the main flow functions to the stocks. So we say, okay, are there any growth rate ratios in recurring projects or new entrants minus the ratio of projects turning unsound? And that this is a signal of, let's say, increasing the voter stock or decreasing other stocks. So basically, this is a really nice idea of an overview of how does the DAO behave at an abstract overview level. And well, basically, what you can see, this is a model actually which is not object oriented. So, and then you can see that the simulation is performing quite well. So I did have room for multiple Monte Carlo runs and one parameter sweep for the new project ratio. So what is happening when projects are increasing in newness, or how many new entrants are there? Now you can see this is quite a healthy DAO-based scenario. So there are recurring projects, and this idea was also because of the grant cap. We have now a grant cap of 200. Does that influence the grant cap? And we can see that the more new entrants, of course, the less funding is needed. Then you see you don't have that much grant cap needed.
Right.
So this is my main finding, and I also did a chance that is bigger. If you say, okay, my chance is bigger that projects are turning unsound, then you can see the DAO really, fading away. The DAO is dying because of the high ratio of unsound projects. And then we did another experiment, and this one really turned out wrong.